Greetings and good morning. People have sent me a lot of inquiries over the last few weeks, some of the information that I've been sharing with them. It's hard for them to wrap their mind around the fact that if they're not the owner of said thing, that they're not the man or woman that is primarily liable for the entity, for the fiction. There are only two competing realms, ladies and gentlemen, the fictional realm and reality. The fictional realm is something that man manifested, a group of men, a body of politic, if you will, manifested in order to live a lavish life off your sweat equity and your ignorance. So everybody says, well, Derek, it's pretty clear you're a defendant. Am I? Are you the one making the claim? Furthermore, can you prove your claim? I mean, absent a sending of the mind, a meeting of the minds, and me claiming to be a defendant, what evidence do you have and rely upon that I can be a defendant or that I am the defendant? All right, it's a fiction, ladies and gentlemen. Just like a plaintiff is a fiction, all right? Just like the state of is a fiction. I like to call it the state of confusion because that's really what it is. Whether it's the state of Utah, state of Nebraska, state of Colorado, it's a fiction that's got everybody confused as to what's really going on and transpiring. The author is always the authority. You have to decide whether or not you're going to be the author of your life, if you're going to be the authority over it. You get to choose what you accept and what you do not accept. If you've ever been in a court case, it's really funny because the at-law administrator who's administering a bankruptcy will say, the court finds that the defendant is guilty. The court finds? Fuck you talking about, Willis? The court? The court is an inanimate object, a fiction of man's imagination. And if you're talking to a quote-unquote court, well, under Rule 11, you might be due for a psyche eval, a psychological evaluation. Because if you're talking to imaginary friends at the age of 40, 50, and 60 years old, I think you're batshit crazy. It's very hard for people to wrap their heads around what's really transpiring. It took me a long time myself. So, everything can be defeated with simple questions. Who is invoking the jurisdiction of this court? Now, instead of beating a dead horse by asking the same question over and over and over again and being redundant, switch it up. Is there a man or woman invoking the jurisdiction of this court? Is there a claimant invoking this jurisdiction of this court? Where is the warrant of attorney on behalf of the plaintiff, the fiction's, right, behalf? Where's the contract granting the attorney the ability to operate outside of Washington, D.C., a 10 square mile area? Do you have it? Where's it located? When was it signed? When was it begotten? How was it delivered? Was it delivered by mail? Was it delivered in personam? Was it delivered in person? These are just simple questions, guys. And their job is to get you to make a statement. Because the second you make a statement, you are screwed. You're screwed. The Constitution is very clear. But more so than the Constitution being clear about your right to face your accuser, It's just common sense. Take it back to kindergarten. Little Susie says, Tommy took my ball. Does the supervisor over the offspring just run up and spank Tommy on the ass? Or does the supervisor ask Tommy, did you take the ball? Where is the ball? Is it still in your possession? When did you take it? Why did you take it? Where's it at? Right? Just logical questions. And through deductive reasoning, you'll be able to establish whether or not little Susie's a liar. Little Susie might be a drama queen trying to get little Tommy in trouble. So we use logical, rational questions to get to the bottom of it. But for some reason, as we start to get older, we forget to ask questions and we start making statements. All kinds of statements. I used to write pretty extraordinary writs and make a lot of claims in them. Claims that I thought I could back up, that I could enforce. Only to come to realize that just because I read it in one of these law books doesn't make it so. It doesn't make it a fact. Other people can agree to it and have an ascension of the mind and bind themselves to it, while others will deny it. And who are you to force them to accept it, right? So instead of doing that, why not ask questions? Just ask the questions. I'm here as an honorable man to resolve the issue before this court. I'm a friend of the court, attempting to help this court make a determination that's lawful, that's accurate, and I'm here to expedite the position of this court so they can go back to fleecing U.S. citizens. Heaven forbid I hinder you from conducting your business of the day of fleecing people who are ignorant. I'd like to expedite this position and offer remedy under a conditional acceptance, provided you can prove your warrant of attorney, your anti-bribery statement, your foreign registration certificate. You can show me the claimant and the fact that they're independently bonded with a verified claim, a verified affidavit, a verified statement of fact under the pains and penalties of perjury, facing 1 year in jail or a $10,000 fine. Show me your claimant. And heck, since I'm here, I give you to the end of the day to get them on the phone and bring them on down. Let's get it done. Real simple. People in jury trials so often are told that you will decide the facts, we will decide the law, and wonder why our country is in tatters. They took civics out of school because in the 70s people started standing up, shaking their fist, saying, we're not putting up with this horse pucky. And the legislators, who's a group of attorneys, quickly realized, hey, we got to take over the school system. These people here are getting just a wee bit too educated. And they got a lot of testosterone left in their system. And they ain't going to put up with our BS. And we got to find a way to change these people's way of thinking, to put it politically correct and polite. For example, I call it solitary confinement, which is cruel and unusual punishment, which is you're protected. There's a line of protection, I should say, in invoking the 8th Amendment, which doesn't apply to you, but it's a contract that you can accept. I accept the contract of the Constitution, the intent of the Founding Fathers to bind you cronies to it. I accept it, I acknowledge it, and I'm here to enforce it. I'm here to invoke the right to face my accuser. I don't waive any rights. I waive all benefits without God, but I don't waive any rights. There's a difference between civil rights and unalienable rights. And if there wasn't a difference, they wouldn't have different identifiers. Civil rights are something that can be taken away, although they sound real nice. If man giveth, man taketh. Period. So what do you want to hang your hat on? I'll tell you right now, hanging your hat on unalienable rights given to you by the mighty Creator is a lot better juxtaposition than hanging your hat on some political civil rights. That makes sense? Fictions. That's how they operate. That's why they're allowed to operate with presumptions and assumptions, because everything's a fiction. Everything's up to perception. So, I see a lot of people that abbreviate things on documentation. If I were you, I'd stop abbreviating and I'd start writing it out in its entirety. When I started studying equity, I realized how valuable a handwritten pleading is. Handwritten pleading is something only a man can do. When I say man, I mean plural, men and women. It's something only a man can do. So, is the plaintiff's pleading that's sworn to here and verified under the pains and penalties of perjury, is that handwritten? Because Alibaba from Tokyo could have typed this document up. I have no verified evidence that a claimant actually exists. And if nobody can produce a claimant, could it be that this is an attempted extortion, coercion, RICO violation? Could it be? I once read a small dissertation from a higher level administrative law judge who said how he really despised the lower courts. Their decisions are just absolutely preposterous. And I got to thinking about it. You don't despise the lower courts. Are you kidding me? That's what feeds him. He might ostracize them so people think that he's honorable and noble. But if it wasn't for the bad decisions made by the lower courts, he wouldn't be raking in the dough. How do you bite the hand that feeds? You don't. These people know that what's transpiring in these lower courts is wrong, and they could stop it in a heartbeat. You want to know why they're not going to? Because they're complicit in it. Because they're unjustly enriching themselves off the piss-poor decisions of these lower courts. It has nothing to do with justice, tranquility, transparency, the welfare of the people. It's quite the opposite. Never let a disaster go to waste. That's their ideology and mentality. Never let a disaster go to waste. Always use it to push forth your agenda. You see, when justice was incentivized, when prisons were turned into private for-profit organizations, when mental health facilities are owned by bar association members and judges alike, you no longer have justice, ladies and gentlemen. You have racketeering. You have what is known as baratray. So, when an at-law administrative judge handling an affair in an Article I military tribunal says that he is purported to be non-biased, well, if you make that claim, I'm going to need to see all your financial reports. I need to see what companies you're invested in. I need to know if you're invested in any mental health facilities, if you're invested in the CRIS system, if you're getting any grants or bonuses for rendering decisions from that bench. I want to see your full portfolio. Nothing hidden. I want to see it all. They'll never do that. Because anybody with half a brain evaluating their financials would very, very, very quickly be able to identify that these people are raking it in hand over fist for making piss poor decisions, and they're limiting their risk of being caught by having their other buddies who operate the higher courts protect them. I once told a judge, and this is no bullshit, an administrative law judge, I looked at her, and I said, I've done business with a mob, and they're more honorable than you people. She turned about 3 shades of white. Couldn't believe I would just openly say that in court. But it's the truth. Those people are more honorable than your judiciary, which really isn't a judiciary anymore. Hasn't been a judiciary since 1871. There hasn't been a real judge in this country since 1871. And probably even before that. But I would venture to say back in the day, there were some pretty honorable men, being that I read a lot of court cases. Even the lower court cases back in the day, they were pretty fair. They were pretty just. And all of a sudden, after 1871, and really after 1933, about 1935 is when it really changed. That's when the diabolical structure started to really rear its ugly head. You come into this world naked, and you will leave this world naked. And because of that fact, you can't own anything. So the illusion that you own things is an issue as well. And it's something that you have to ascend of the mind. You use it. You might use that automobile. You might use that dwelling. You might use a lot of things. But at the end of the day, you don't own it. Because you can't take it with you when you leave. And that's something else people need to start to become cognizant of. And it's really hard to accept that because our whole life we've been ingrained in us to go to school, go to school, go to school, go to school, graduate from middle school, go to high school, go to school, go to school, go to school, go to school, graduate from high school, go to college, 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 graduate from college, and now you're a somebody. That system is designed to keep you from using critical thinking. It's designed to put you in debt right away. You'll find that most people that are extremely articulate and intelligent will tell you college is a mistake. Unless you're going to be a doctor, unless you're going to deal with some kind of science, college really isn't necessary. There are 3 industries in the world that even when shit hits the fan will always be needed. Food, medical science, and there was one other, and I can't remember it off the top of my head, but those 2 industries are really the only industries you'd want to go to college for. Everything else is minuscule. And to prove my point, many people have to go through a couple years of prereqs that don't even apply to what they're wanting to study in college. Waste of time. How many of you use algebra day in and day out? Unless you're in construction, probably not a whole lot of you use algebra. Yet it's one of the prereqs for college. Waste of time, waste of money. Especially if you're going into, let's say, massage therapy or something like that, where you're not going to be using geometry, you're not going to be using calculus, you're not going to be using any of that. And you're right, with the internet, I mean, you could be YouTube certified in about 15 minutes in almost anything. And then, again, practice makes perfect. You don't know how to weld? Go watch a few welding videos. Go learn the temperature you need to melt iron. Go practice a little bit. And before long, with applied application and practice, you'll be good at it. You don't need to go to college to learn how to weld. Piece of paper doesn't mean you're intelligent. It just means that you're able to read, regurgitate, and pass tests. It doesn't mean that you're intelligent. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, focus on questions in your court cases. Questions. I believe a mistake's been made here. I've been known to use that name. But is there any claimant in here today invoking this jurisdiction willing to prove that I own the name and that I'm primarily liable for it? Yes or no? Always ask the yes or no questions. If they go into some extravagant explanation, they've screwed the pooch. I need just a simple yes or no. I don't need your opinion. If I wanted your opinion, I'd peel it from my zipper. And that's just a polite way of calling you know what. I got to clean up my act a little bit. My mother about to pull her hair out with me, so. Always ask yes or no questions. And if they're being omissive, that's called confession and avoidance, and you're on the right track. Always ask questions. I see my brother Amicus is on here. Happy birthday, Amicus. Love you, brother. I'm really starting to adopt your way of thinking, and I appreciate your great patience with me, nurturing me along this path of asking questions. Could it be? Could it be? Gotta love our brother Amicus. He's really onto something here, and I'm real strong-headed, real bullheaded, and it takes me a while to adapt because I'm so focused on equity, which I'm not saying that equity doesn't have its remedies. Equity most certainly is where a man finds his remedy. Batman again, too, as well. Batman and I have had many of conversations, and I'm one of those guys that things have to marinate in my mind for a while. Just because you say it is so doesn't mean that I disagree or agree with you. It means I need a little bit of time to process, all right? And once I start to analyze, process, and think about it, now all of a sudden I can go, okay, I see how this works. It's brilliant. It's absolutely beautiful. So, can you be a defendant? Well, it's like Jesus Christ said when they asked him, are you the Son of God? If thou believest so, who am I to tell you otherwise? But I will ask you this question. Who's the claimant claiming that I am or that I'm not? Who can prove it? Who's the one willing to testify and verify under the pains and penalties of perjury that I am or that I am not? Who am I to tell you? Yes or no? Because the facts, as far as I'm concerned, they're on the moon. And without any facts, how can any logical, reasonable, sane verdict be reached? Real simple. Where is the state of Nebraska, and when do I get to depose them? Can I depose the state of Nebraska? When's the last time you spoke to the state of Nebraska? What color hair does the state of Nebraska have? Who's the state of Nebraska's mom and dad? Where were they born? At what hospital? Where are they gainfully employed? You see where I'm going with this? How could I provide remedy? I'm being denied due process of law. Could it be that I'm being denied due process of law by not being able to face my accuser? Is it plausible that I can't provide remedy on the private side, absent the address and true name of the one bringing the claim? Could it be that we're wasting the court's time and that somebody has brought fraud upon this court? Falsifying a record, could it be? I mean, after all, I'm just doing deductive logic and reasoning here, but I don't see anybody sitting in the plaintiff's chair, the fiction's chair over there. Could it be there's no plaintiff, which means that this court has no jurisdiction because there's no controversy or case before this court? Could it be? I mean, I could be losing my mentis here. I might be. Hell, I don't know. It seems to me everybody in here wants to play make-believe, pretend they're a doctor, and stick their finger up my hoo-hoo. That's not going to work for me. That's an outgoing shoot. Which one of you proctologists over here, which is a polite way of calling it an asshole, is trying to play doctor with me right now and placate somehow that I'm insane? With that said, love you guys. I got to get going.